Podium. City Clerk. Handheld 2. Handheld 1.
School in the fall.
Council member. Council member. Mayor. Council member. Council member. City Attorney. Staff.
You guys all good? Yep. All right. Hello. Okay, it is 7 p.m. on May 19th, and I'll call this meeting to order. First item of business is roll call.
Councilmember Diaz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nia?
Here.
Mayor Juan?
Here.
Councilmember Trupiano?
I'm here.
Councilmember Tillman?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we're going to do something a little different. Normally, we take the recognitions and presentations later in the meeting, but I see a lot of folks may be here for that, so we're going to move it on our agenda. Next, if Councilmember Tillman, if I could turn it over to you for recognitions and presentations. This is item 5A.
Thank you, Mayor Juan. I think the majority of this room is here for the Do the Right Thing awards and presentations tonight from Mount Diablo Elementary School and from Diablo View Middle School. This program was started by Hank Stratford, who was our former mayor in 2011, and it recognizes the character traits that we have here in the city of Clayton, which you can see down on the banner in front of us, if the banner's there in front of the mayor. And we're going to be recognizing those during the months of March and April for integrity. So I will call up Vice Principal Romo. He said all the way to our mouths.
Oh, okay, I know. I'll try and do my best. I think the first one we have is Blair Allen, who is not here because she went home sick yesterday, but her dad is here to videotape, so I'm going to say what her teacher, Miss Moore, wrote about her. Blair is a quiet leader in our classroom. She is consistently doing the right thing and working her hardest. She notices when someone forgets a jacket or water bottle and will bring it to them at the end of the day. Blair notices if a peer needs help and steps in without hesitation. On more than one occasion, I've seen Blair help out a peer with a task around the classroom, such as cleaning up, opening the door if their hands are full, or gathering materials. Blair has spoken up for her peers if she witnesses someone breaking a school rule. She truly cares for her classmates in school and constantly does the right thing, even if no one is watching. Congratulations, Blair. Dad, you want to give her two? Do you want her certificate or you want me to do it at school tomorrow? Okay. I will. We'll repeat at school tomorrow. Next up, I have Tiago, who I'm going to pass the mic to his teacher, who is here, Miss Grisbo. Tiago, come on up, bud.
Thank you. Perfect. So this is Tiago. He is such a demonstration of integrity in our class. He consistently demonstrates integrity in and out of the classroom. He has a calm and steady personality and makes sure he is always doing what he's supposed to be doing. Tiago has high expectations for himself in both his schoolwork and his behavior. When there is work to be done, Tiago will put forth his best effort to make sure he gets it done rather than rushing to move on to something else. When others around him are not always doing the right thing, Tiago will not only stay on track without being influenced by others, but he will kindly remind his classmates and peers what is expected of them. He is a gentle leader and sets an excellent example to those around him. Tiago is a true model of the 5 values of integrity: honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. It has been a pleasure having Tiago in my class this year, and I am proud to honor him for his integrity. Good job.
Very good. All right, next up we have Addie from Miss... Oh, I think she took my sheet, though. I don't have it memorized, everyone. I didn't. Hi, Addie. Addie is in kindergarten in Miss Shelley's class, and Miss Shelley said she follows directions, waits patiently, acts responsibly, and presents herself as a great role model for her peers. She does the right thing even when it's hard and where there are constant distractions around her. Addie always chooses right over wrong, and I appreciate her so much. She has shown these capabilities the entire year on a daily basis, never wavering from the rules and expectations in our class and around our school campus. Congratulations, Addie. All right, and last up we have Noah. Noah is in kindergarten as well in Miss Lovejoy's class. And Miss Lovejoy said to say, I am proud to nominate Noah for the character trait of integrity. I can always count on Noah to be doing the right thing, even when nobody is watching. Noah is a role model who encourages others to do their best. Noah teaches us that integrity isn't about being perfect, but is about making good choices, telling the truth, and treating people with kindness. I am lucky to have had him in kindergarten this year. Great work, Noah. Congratulations.
I love that we still continue to do these starting in kindergarten all the way up through the middle school, and it's nice to see them starting off so young. Up next, we're going to have Principal Vicki Wilson. Come on down.
My name being sung. Nice. All right, ready? Okay. So first up, I have Miss Vivian Bryce. Vivian was nominated by Miss Ruff, who says Vivian is a student who shows up with a smile, a good attitude, and a willingness to get things done in a respectful and responsible way. She makes sure to hold herself accountable in all that she does by being true to what is right and making sure to speak up if something is not for the well-being of those around her. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody that's going to be an officer next year, we absolutely need people that have integrity. So congratulations. Okay, John Grispo. We get a Grispo reappearance. All right. John was nominated by Mrs. Parker, and she says, John is an outstanding young man. He constantly strives to do the right thing and have integrity. He is honest and kind with everyone, and he always tells the truth and understands the importance of his character. It is my absolute pleasure to nominate him for my final time for Do the Right Thing for this incredible young man. So for those of you that don't know, Mrs. Parker is retiring at the end of this year. So, okay. Next up is Kiera King. Congratulations, Kiera. All right. Kiera was nominated by Mrs. Ridenauer, and she says, I'm pleased to nominate Kiera for the Integrity Award. She is a very responsible student who takes the initiative to ask questions when something isn't clear. She's proactive when she knows she's going to miss school and always gets her work done on time. She also does the little things to make our school a better place, like pushing in chairs for others who happen to forget, and she is nothing but kind to her classmates. I feel so lucky to have had Kiera in my class this year. Congratulations. And last but not least is my 8th grader, Elle Zane. Is she here? There she is. Come on up, Elle. Elle was nominated by Mrs. Pelosi, who says, I can always count on Elle to be doing the right thing. She stays focused and on task all the time. She asks thoughtful questions in class and is always ready to participate in math. So congratulations.
Thank you again for all coming down tonight. I know that you're all excited with the last few days of school hanging in there. I'm going to turn it back over to our mayor. And before Principal Romo leaves, you need the sheet. Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes item 5A. Normally, I would invite you all to do other things that you may have for the evening, but item 5B is a proclamation recognizing the Clayton Community Church, and I want to kind of read this proclamation while everyone's here so they can hear all the wonderful things that the church has been doing. So, this is a proclamation recognizing Clayton Community Church and Pastor Sean Robinson for 30 years of service to the Clayton community. Whereas for the past 30 years, Clayton Community Church has faithfully served the residents of the Clayton community through spiritual leadership, community outreach, compassion, and dedicated service. And whereas under the leadership of Pastor Sean Robinson, the church has provided encouragement, support, and guidance to individuals and families throughout the community, fostering a spirit of unity, faith, and service. And whereas Clayton Community Church has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to improving the quality of life for residents through volunteerism, charitable efforts, youth engagement, community events, and outreach programs that have positively impacted countless lives. And whereas Pastor Sean Robinson's leadership, compassion, and dedication have helped strengthen the social and spiritual fabric of the Clayton community, inspiring others through his example of kindness, integrity, and service. And whereas the City of Clayton recognizes the significant contributions made by Clayton Community Church and Pastor Sean Robinson over the past 3 decades, and expresses its sincere appreciation for their continued commitment to serving others and building a stronger community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Clayton hereby honors and congratulates Clayton Community Church and Pastor Sean Robinson for 30 years of dedicated service to the Clayton community and extends its gratitude and best wishes for many more years of continued service and fellowship. And if Pastor Sean would, if you would like to say a few words at the mic, you're welcome to. You have to turn it on first, though.
Yeah, hit the button.
Wait, the light turns red. No, push it until push it again.
One moment. There you go.
Oh, okay. Am I supposed to start by inviting everyone to church, or how does that go?
You know,
I don't know.
it's an open mic, so.
Perfect. This is my place. Thank you. It's hard to follow a bunch of cute kids, but I just want you to know this is very kind of you, and we love our community. And I think all we've really wanted to do since we started 30 years ago, I mean, Jim and I had dark hair, and I just know that we just want to make a difference for good and to share the love of God. And so just to be able to be here for you, it says maybe we've had an opportunity to do some of that, and we hope to do much more. I think the only other thing I would like to say is that the reason this church does so many good things is not because of me, but because I have a great team of leaders and people who are part of this community. And so this is our home, and we tend to do everything we can to bless it, encourage and strengthen it, and we're in, and we thank you for being our elected officials. So I just wanted to ask some people from our church who are with me to stand, or if you want to be with our church, you can stand, but I got to really stop that. But so these are some of our leaders. So. And that one's my wife, so she's my favorite. But, so thank you very much. And the only other thing I ask, we have something coming before the city council. Feel free to just pass that tonight if you want, but...
I don't think that's on our agenda.
I didn't think so either, but it was... We'll see you soon, though, Jeff, I hope.
Yeah. Would you like to take a photo?
Sure. Yeah, let's
Yes.
do a photo.
Is that right?
Take your glasses, they're mine.
That's okay. I mean, if you want to borrow them.
I'm not taking it.
Hey, you're welcome to try them. Okay. And with that, that concludes item 5B. That is the end of our recognitions and presentations. We're going to move the agenda back to our regular order. So if everyone wants to stay and hang out with us, you're welcome to do so. No shame in if you don't.
Have a good summer.
We're gonna pause for just a moment.
Hold up your certificates. There you go.
Thank you. Have a good summer. Bye. Oh, Mr. Aiello was here. Did you see Mr. Aiello?
I'm gonna take a 1-minute recess. There's a family emergency I need to tend to for 1 second.
Take a break.
I just need to take a picture of my roadside assistance card and send it to the person that's stuck on the side of the road.
You better have AAA, right?
I do. Hold on. Hold on.
He goes
Oh, Mr. Aiello's leaving too, and Nate. All right.
he goes to that church.
Yeah.
Who does? Oh, does he?
Okay. I got a little discombobulated. One second. All right, so next on the agenda is item 3, public comment on non-agenda items. If anyone has any comment on something that is not on the agenda tonight, this is your time. Seeing none, I will close public comment on non-agenda items, move to the consent calendar. Does anyone have any items they would like to pull from the consent calendar?
Move approval.
We can't do that yet.
You can, and then you can accept any public comment.
I think we have to go in the other order, but that's okay. All right, so public comment on the consent calendar. Seeing none, I will close public comment, bring it back to council.
And now I will officially make the motion to approve it.
And I'll second.
Could we please call the roll?
Of course. Councilmember Tillman,
Aye.
Councilmember Trupiano,
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ania,
Yes.
Mayor Juan.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, that concludes item 4. We've already done item 5. Item 6 is reports. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick things. We've been talking about a new website for some time now. We are in that fun transition and migration period. We should be live in about 4 to 5 weeks if everything goes smoothly. We've brought on several modules online, one of which you'll find on our current website, which is Fix It Clayton. So if you have any maintenance concerns, street lights, graffiti, missing signs, broken sprinklers, any of those things, you can simply go to our website, hit Fix It Clayton, fill that out. It goes directly to us, and then we can put that on our schedule to get those items taken care of. So that's one of the modules that's currently operating on the new website. But like I said, in a few weeks, we will be fully live with a brand-new website. We're still building some of the back-end stuff and migrating our current stuff over. So it's a long process, but we're getting there. This past weekend, fantastic concerts in the Grove. The park was, I would say, filled to capacity with people attending, great weather, fun dance band in Foreverland, which is Michael Jackson cover music. So I think everybody that attended had a very enjoyable evening, so that's fantastic. We've talked a lot about our maintenance issues, beautification, health and safety issues, weed abatement. We have created, and when I say we, Dennis, has created 3 charts. They are up on our current website. We'll be rolling those out through social media. We'll be updating those regularly. It's one of the items that is currently on the website. It'll be moving to the front page with some other stuff. In the next couple of days, we're reorganizing. So it'll will be able to carry over to the new site. So as we change dates, accomplish things, we'll be updating those calendars so that it's not going to be real time, but it's going to be semi-real time with deadlines, dates, all of those things so that the community knows when weed abatement's happening, when we're ordering the replacement signs that we talked about 2 meetings ago. All of those wonderful things that we need to take care of are on those charts, and we will continue to update those and keep them as up to date as possible to keep everybody informed as we move forward. Do you have anything else to add on that? And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes item 6A. I would just say, when that is loaded on the site, if it would be great if you could link us directly so that we could share as well all the good work that the city's doing. Item 6B is City Council reports. Those are in the agenda packet. And now to the main event. Item 7A. It's the last item on the agenda before adjournment. So there's a workshop number 2 on transaction and use tax, parentheses, sales tax, end parentheses, and landscape maintenance district LMD renewal. To Mr. Bazanik.
Thank you very much, Mayor, City Council. So I did put into, on each of your places today, an updated version after some conversations with our attorneys that handle the community facility districts for our law firm. And so the changes that I've made are in the narrative, and I'll highlight what those are if you've prepped. That way you know what they are. But it really has to do with adding a step in the approval of the LMD for the continuation of the LMD. So I'll point that out when it comes. So I don't want you to think there's a whole lot of changes. It really just adds a step in the process for us. So wanting to talk about sales tax first. This is the language that we've now looked at. We've had legal counsel look at this and suggest that this is the language that the city would want to do based on recent court cases, based on recent election success in other jurisdictions, a number of considerations here. This is what is being proposed. I'm not going to read it to you. It's pretty obvious, but it meets all of the basically the standards that we would want to have in ballot language, including the word count. We can come back to it later on if you want to talk about it more, but this is what the city staff would be recommending as being compliant.
Dennis, may I just ask one question? There's a question mark at the end. Is that natural? Because we're asking.
You're asking them, you're asking the question, will you do this?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
The lower portion where it says, subject to public review, annual audits, and all the funds benefiting, like, is that required language? Because we're not isolating the sales tax revenue or whatever revenue comes from here by itself, so nor are we tracking the particular spend. So subject to public review is more of a general statement that all revenue and all spend is subject to public review. And then annual audits, there's no audit of this specifically. It's just part of our normal audit.
Correct.
Right.
So is that language necessary?
It's discretionary. I think the idea was to include it so that it does show that sign of that piece of accountability within your word limit.
Yeah. I mean, it does imply that there would be some segregated activity specific to this funding source, which I don't know if is, I don't think that's entirely accurate, so I wouldn't want to give the impression that it's some segregated amount.
Okay. Not required, so if you want to give us direction.
I don't know.
But could you keep the word subject to the same public review annual audit of all general funds?
I mean, I think that's true, but less words is less confusing, I think.
I think if you said subject to the annual audit or current annual audit, something of that
Yeah.
nature.
I'd be okay with that.
I like the benefiting Clayton, all funds benefiting Clayton, though. That part's great.
Correct. The annual audit makes it sound like it's part of our.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's more in line with
Yeah.
what will actually happen.
Right, so it could
So
be
subject to the annual audit.
subject to public review, the annual audit, and all funds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, annual audit singular.
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Perfect. Wordsmithing like pros there.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So just to then now go over, we got some language set now. This really helps us move to the next meeting, which would be June 16th, where there will be a series of resolutions that the council will be asked to consider following public comment. And one will be calling for the placement of the general tax measure on the November 3rd ballot. And it will include the ordinance, which will be attached as an exhibit to that resolution, basically laying that out. The second resolution will be one to consolidate the municipal election with the general election on November 3rd. That's just a legal thing that you do, basically saying we want to be on the ballot with everything else on November 3rd. And then the last resolution will be providing for the filing of both direct arguments as well as rebuttal arguments regarding that. And so one of the things we would benefit from hearing, either today or soon, would be who would you like to assign those arguments, both the direct argument in support of, as well as then the rebuttal to any opposition direct argument. So that would be something we could talk about tonight. If there's people that want to do that, that would be helpful. The adoption of that particular measure would require a supermajority, 2/3 or greater, of this council in order to be able to place it on the ballot, and then it would only require a 50% plus one of approval by the electorate following that. And as soon as those resolutions are approved by the council on the 16th, if that were to happen, then we would be able to submit those as long as we do it by August 7th. That's the deadline with the elections department, but we would most likely do it that same week. So any questions about the schedule for the tax measure?
I have a question on the 2/3 of or greater vote of the council. Define that specifically.
Well, so it's a greater majority, so it would be 4/5, yeah.
4/5.
4/5.
Well, the law says 2/3 of all seated members greater than, which
Yeah.
you cannot divide us in
Yes.
portions.
I'm asking that for the good of the community,
Yeah.
not for myself. I know the answer. I wanted to hear it
I
from him.
didn't follow on, sorry.
In practical terms, it means 4/5 because of that splitting persons thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything? Okay. So let's now move to LMD, shall we? The renewal. So recall that you were asked a couple of questions at the last meeting. One was the question of what's kind of the history around the 11 members of the Trails and Landscape Committee, the TLC. Where does that come from? And then the other question that was raised and there was a request for some additional analysis on the impact if we change the way the assessment is apportioned to residential properties and non-residential properties. So let me break those down separately for you in a minute, for just a moment. So we went back and we talked to some folks who have been around for a minute. And one of the things that we learned in that process was it was really established through the 2007 measure, but it was based on the work of a committee, a blue ribbon panel of folks who looked at what happened between 97 and 2006 when they were preparing for the 2007 ballot measure, that reviewed the successes and perhaps the opportunities for further successes with some changes and modifications to the landscape and maintenance district. And so the idea then that was brought forward in the 2007 measure was to have a group of people, and it just so happened the Blue Ribbon Commission had around 11 people, and maybe changed a little bit over time, but it was approximately 11 people, and that was what carried into then the Trails and Landscape, that it would basically be replacing the Blue Ribbon Panel or Blue Ribbon Committee as the advisory body for the utilization of the Landscape and Maintenance District funds. So that's the story we've understood about how we got to 11 people on the TLC. It was also said to us that, anecdotally, that there was always kind of a belief that that probably would change over time, that was a lot of people to sustain over decades of this measure now, of this law. And so the idea of reducing it to some number less than 11 has always been kind of in the background, but this is a moment where we would codify that in the language of the measure and in the ordinance supporting it. So that's the history of the 11-member TLC, as we've understood it. Second question that was raised at the last one is talking about how the assessment is apportioned in terms of what you get on your bill. That's what apportionment is. What portion of it are you paying? The assessment is the $1.4 million rounded, right? But then how does that get apportioned? And the way this has been, the LMD has been set up thus far, the Community Facilities District has been set up, is that the residential rate is a fixed dollar amount per parcel, and the non-residential properties are assessed that same number by tradition, but it's per acre, not per parcel. So that becomes the distinction there. We talked a bit about this last time, but I just want to make sure we go over it. So in this year for the fiscal year 26 rates, that's the $303.72. And it's assessed or apportioned to residential properties per their parcel. If they own one parcel, they paid the $303, okay? But on the non-residential, it's billed per acre, and it's rounded. So it rounded to a whole number. So it's a multiple of the number of acres. And just so everybody knows, the rate for the 27 year is going to be in front of you on June the 2nd. Okay? So we just got the figures today. We'll be working up the staff reports and the other actions to take to amend this number by the CPI for the coming year, for the 27 year. Okay? So let's look at a little bit of the analysis we did looking at the particular things. Is there any way to move that little box up there that says city clerk on it so we can see those numbers? Is it mine? Oh, okay. I'm trying to make it go away. It doesn't, no, it's not. I don't know. Okay, well, we'll work around it. It probably isn't all that material. So the very top chart shows the number of residential parcels, non-residential parcels, and the 9 exempt parcels, totaling the 44,139 parcels in the city of Clayton. The acreage is not necessary when it comes to the residential one because it's just assessed per parcel. But it does matter what the non-residential acreage is, and that is a total of basically 360 acres of land on 58 different parcels. I'm going to break this down a little bit more. So the residential folks contribute about $1.25 million. Let's just round it to that. The non-residential raises about $103,000 for the total of $1,337,585. Okay. So what I did do is then look at if we use the same 26 numbers, since that's what we have in our hands, if we did it with a different apportionment where everybody just paid per parcel, there was no acre charge for the non-residential properties. Those residential properties would, and I put the highlighting on the things that changed. On non-residential, it no longer matters about the acreage. It would be the $303.72 per parcel. That would change their revenue to $17,615 for that. So if you go to the bottom line, the difference between the way we currently apportion the assessment and the way that was discussed at the last meeting, the district would lose $86,000 with this other apportionment. Okay. questions about that?
So the 58, are those all single acre properties?
No, the 58 parcels that are non-residential
Right.
are a variety of different kinds of parcels. They would be the businesses on Main Street, which would be fractions of acres.
Correct.
Right?
That's what I'm trying to get at.
There's some, so when I'm going to show you this next chart, when of the 58, only 30 of them are greater than an acre. Okay?
Great.
So
You answered-
basically,
you got right to my question.
yeah,
Thank you.
basically a little bit better than half are
Yeah.
greater than an acre. So,
Thank you.
yep. Okay.
And those that are greater than an acre on the next slide,
Or on
correct?
the
Okay.
next slide, that's correct. So this slide represents the ownership now. So we're shifting a little bit from just purely on acreage, but now we're looking at ownership. And so that's why I've identified them as business number XXX, whatever it is. So as not to, disclose who exactly we're talking about here. It's a small universe here. But these would represent the ownership. There's 17 owners of those 17 owners of the 30 that were greater than an acre. And so, thank you, I had to get that straight.
The 30 or the 58?
Well, no, 58's the total.
Right.
30 or less than an acre, then this is, I'm sorry, I said that wrong,
Yeah.
So it's the 28, basically.
Got it.
Got it. So this is, the 28 parcels are owned by these 17 owners.
If you're
distinct.
less than an acre, then there's no delta.
That's correct. So that's why I left them off this chart. So what this does is this shows where the delta all comes from, are from these 17 unique owners that you see there, and it ties out to what we showed on the other chart. Okay? Continuing on. So we still have some outstanding decisions to be made here, and amongst them are this question about the apportionment of the rate. We do have also a question about, do we add the 10% to the current assessment rate so that we can generate additional revenue for capital improvements, was the discussion we had earlier this year or late last year. That was part of that, so we've left that in the mix. How many folks might there be on the advisory body, whether it's TLC or something else, and what's the number? And then just a question to make sure we're confirming that the current description of the district services is accurate and is going to remain unchanged at this point. And that becomes key because that really determines what you can charge for. And so that becomes key. So the good news is there are a couple decisions that I think the council has made, and I've noted those. The length of the extension, I seemed like there was very strong consensus around the fact that we would keep the 10-year time frame, and so I think we can call that one good. And we also did make a general decision that there needed to be some oversight body identified. Who and the size of it is to be determined. So this is the language for Measure H. I'm not going to go through this again. We presented it last time, but it's more exemplary than really anything that staff would be recommending at this time in terms of the ballot language. But it's indicative of what has worked in the recent past for this particular community facilities district. And we would obviously be amending things like the rate and the years of validity for this next assessment for the next 10-year period. Now, here's where some of the changes that I updated in your packet today, and for those of you watching on the home version of the City Council meeting, we'll be posting these online tomorrow morning so that you have the updated slides so you can go through these in more detail at your leisure. So in talking to legal counsel today, there are a little bit of an extra step, and if you decide to make a significant change in terms of that apportionment rate or methodology, we're going to need some more time. And so I think that's what's key, and I'll walk us through that now. So one of the things that we have been, we have to fit in a public hearing. That's the biggest change. And that public hearing has to happen with greater than 30 days, but less than 60 days after this initial consideration, resolution of consideration is approved by this council. So we were looking at the calendar today and realized that the city council is out of session after July 7th and does not return again in the current schedule until third week of August. And if we were to have taken this particular resolution of consideration for the LMD extension on, let's say, the 16th of June, then we would have not had a meeting scheduled currently for that 30 to 60-day window. The other thing we would begin to run into if we go any later than that is, since it has to be greater than 30 days but can't be more than 60, we'd begin to run into the filing deadline for the county elections department, which I came to learn today is 2 days before the transaction and use or sales tax would be due to the county. This has got a 90 days prior to election deadline for community facility district approval of rates. So it's a long way of saying that we looked at the calendar and we thought one path forward was to move the consideration of this resolution to extend the LMD to the June 2nd meeting. So we'd pull it forward by one meeting. That way we could have that. Then we could come back on the night of July 6th, which was also already on our schedule for July 7th, thank you. Would come back for the notified public hearing on that resolution of consideration of extension. And that way we would be done with our legal requirements for the consideration in time to submit well in advance of the August 5th deadline for this particular measure.
And Dennis, is there no meeting on July 21st?
There is not currently.
Okay.
I mean,
And
that could be rectified.
That could be rectified. There's no
Absolutely.
reason it's not there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, would that just make it easier?
Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily.
Okay.
If we can get the other decisions today, then we're fine. If we get the other decisions today. If the council needed additional time for those considerations, might get a little more problematic, but we can do it this way. We're already, the writing has largely been done on the other tax measure, so we would just be needing to do this. But again, it's depending on whether you come to a decision tonight is really the only factor. And then just a quick reminder that it's a simple majority of the council to approve the resolutions of consideration. There's also, just like in the other one, there's resolutions of the consolidation of the general and municipal election, and also about who would do the authoring the both direct and rebuttal arguments. So those things would also be occurring. And we would bring those at the July 7th meeting, just so that there would be approval at that. And then with the simple majority of the council, it would be 2/3 plus one of the electorate to approve the extension of the LMD.
Why is this one simple majority?
It's special tax versus general tax.
For the council is different?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, okay, cool.
So now just looking at the meta, we've kind of really detailed out the May 19th through July 7th in great detail in those last couple of slides. But then just to kind of see the rest of the calendar through, August 5th and 7th are our filing deadlines, LMD on the 5th, and the tax measure, sales tax measure on the 7th. Again, if we were to hold to the schedule we currently have, we'll have these done and submitted well a month or 6 weeks early ahead of those deadlines. There's no reason why we wouldn't go ahead and submit as soon as they're completed by the council. By August 10th, the county would assign the letter to each of the ballot measures. I don't know why that's important, but it's good to know. And then the deadline for submitting the direct arguments is going to be August 19th. And then whoever would, then if we had to consider a rebuttal argument, you have until the 24th. So you've got basically 5 days in order to write the rebuttal to any direct argument against the measure.
Can you walk us through that just a little bit on how that works? I know earlier for the tax measure, you mentioned we need to decide who's going to do it. But let's say that we have the people who are going to do it. How does that work in that 5-day window? Do you have to call a special meeting? Do they work on their own quietly and just send you what you're sending?
You're basically, they're acting as your agents to do the authorship of that rebuttal argument. So there's no need for an additional meeting to approve as a body as a whole. The body would be up by appointing the 2 members or a member, or if all 5 of you wanted to do an argument together, that would also be permissible. But you would do that with,
A special meeting.
that was not brought up today.
In order to, for Brown Act purposes, if all 5 of them wanted to write something.
If all 5 of them wanted to.
Or
okay.
3 of them
Or-
wanted to.
So more than, that's why we usually go with
Yes.
1 or 2, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why we have
thank
to go
you.
with
Thank
1
you
or
for-
2
on
unless
the-
you want to call a special
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah. Thank you. So 1 or 2 best, or easiest, at least not another meeting.
So for clarification, it's 1 or 2 council members. It's not people out in the public.
Correct.
That's what I was asking, is how does that work? Thank you.
It doesn't have to be council members.
That's what I thought we said earlier.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I'm asking, what are we,
It could be Dennis.
so can you walk us through
Yeah.
what all of our options are for
Okay.
that?
So-
Again, thank you.
Yeah, so
And can I ask one other question before you answer that in conjunction? Is it the same 2 people that are doing the sales tax? No, right? It could
no,
be
so,
completely
so
different.
here's the
Okay.
thing. You could have 1 or 2 people from the council, from members of the public, whoever you decide, staff, be fine. It's going to be separate from the sales tax measure, separate. Might be the same, but it doesn't have to be at all. And then there also could be 1 or 2 other people that write the rebuttal that are different than the people who write the direct argument. So it very commonly, I've seen it in other jurisdictions where you have 2 writing the direct argument for a measure, and then 2 other people writing the rebuttal against any opposition. Now, if there's no oppositional direct argument, there's no need for a rebuttal. So if nobody else submits anything, there would be no rebuttal to something that doesn't exist.
And when you say if nobody else submits something, meaning whom? The council or the community?
Anybody could submit a argument against.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they would submit that to the staff?
No, they would submit
the
that to
council.
the county elections department.
Oh, to the county elections department?
Yes.
And then
And
their
they
rebuttal?
would notify us, hey, we got an opposition.
Okay.
Here's a copy of it. Can you turn this over to your rebuttal team to begin to develop the rebuttal?
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Also, just to let you and the public know, we've gone ahead and scheduled a couple of town hall meetings about the tax measures. And so August 26th would be the first of those. Our plan at this point is to cover both measures at both meetings, just knowing that people's schedules are busy. And that October 7th would be the other one, roughly a month before Election Day. And so I think, with that, I think that
And
concludes.
October 7th is not going to conflict with the refresh if we were to hold it in this room, right? Because we're October, November.
If there's a conflict, then we'll move over to Endeavor. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes
Well,
my report.
I have a couple of questions. So in the LMD budget right now, I know we've had reserves the last couple of years that we've carried over. How much are we actually spending? When we're saying that it's, the amount it's going to generate is 1.337585.
Yeah.
How much are we actually spending?
So I ran that report today and left it on my table in my office, but I know the number. I know the number. So, year to date, I had staff run the report today, and as of today, We have $179,000 left to spend for the next 6 weeks, roughly.
In the original amount collected through the assessment or in the reserve? Because that reserve.
That is just from the original assessment. So that's this year's
Okay.
revenue.
The reserve is still around what, 300?
330 something, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that answers that question. And then one other thing I wanted to know, I don't know if I really meant to try to look this up and I didn't get a chance to. Are there other landscape maintenance districts in our county or the Bay Area, something that, like, how do they assess businesses versus residential? Is there any precedent out there?
I haven't researched that at all, so I wouldn't
Okay.
be able to give you an opinion about whether it's common one way or common another.
Because the numbers are like kind of really all over the place, right? From, 607 to 67,000. And my one question is, when you take that like 67,000 and you add an annual CPI plus a 10% for year one, right?
Yeah.
In a 10-year period, that could be approaching like $90,000
Or 100.
Or $100,000.
Or $100,000. I mean, again, because, the CPI is going to, increase, compound, sorry, that was the word I was looking for, thank you.
Right.
The compounding thing.
Compound,
It would compound year over year, and so that, grows fairly quickly. If we continue to have high inflations, the CPI rates are going to be high, you're going to see that number and that delta grow faster. The one thing I forgot to mention earlier from my earlier conversation, and this is going to be, I just want to take a second to walk through this. So the council would also have a decision. So let's say the council wanted to change that apportionment methodology to the example I gave, which was to change it from a per acre charge to a per parcel charge for the non-residential properties. Council would need to make a decision. Do you want to backfill that $85,000 or $86,000 by raising the rate for the residential properties so that it stays revenue neutral? Or do you cut services of $86,000 to right-size the assessment so that the $86,000 doesn't hurt you
And that
from
was-
services?
yeah. That was kind of my next question too, because I guess if, I based it in my head on 4,400 households, you had just over 4,000. So if the households then the residential properties had to make up that difference, it's about another $20 a year or somewhere in that ballpark. But, or you just deal with $86,000 less, which is kind of based on this year's numbers, not future numbers. Right. Okay, that's kind of all the questions I have right now.
Any other questions for staff?
So the question was asked earlier, and I have a different way of asking it. How much should we be spending each year in the LMD, meaning what's being deferred?
It's a really good question. Just looking at the 2 years that I would say I've got eyes on the numbers, that reserve fund hasn't changed dramatically over the last 2 years that I've been around. And if I went back and did a reserve analysis, a trend analysis, I would say they've stayed about the same, which meant you probably accrued them very slowly over time, or you got them in one year, and then we've basically been spending what we've been receiving. So that I'm not sure which one of those two it is, where it's just been kind of growing and maybe you use a little bit more. You use some of the reserves one year, or you put some of those reserves back, but it's fairly flat in terms of that reserve fund balance in the LMD over time. So what's getting deferred? I think that's a far more subjective thing that we don't have very good records about, for example, what's the difference in terms of the number of times we're cutting shrubs on the medians. We don't have that. I know what we're doing now is basically 3 times a year we're hitting the major roadways, and we're trying to sync those up seasonally. So we're cleaning up the weeds when we need to clean up the weeds, and cleaning up the leaves when we need to clean up the leaves during the fall. So, and then trying to balance that out. But I do think it's hard to describe exactly what's being deferred. It seems like we're getting everything done, and we're spending about what we get.
So I know that several people, including myself, have stressed that the trails have not been addressed adequately in a lot of years, right? So there's things that are happening off of Regency on the way to the dog park, like fencing that needs to be put up, et cetera. So the trails seem to be a huge issue. If those have not been addressed and we do not increase this, how are we ever able to do that? And I know that I've said this at a lot of meetings. That is my concern, is that if this is locked in for 10 years, trails, erosion, all the things that have not been addressed, then we're never going to get a chance to do it unless this council decides that they want to do it from our other reserves that we have. But if we've got something that's literally stating in the ballot that it's to address the trails and the landscaping, I don't see how we get away from actually addressing the trails this time. That's a problem I think that a lot of people in the city have with paying this. And I don't want that to be like an impediment for this actually passing, is people saying, why would we do this? Because then it's going to come back to us, and then we're going to have to start talking about austerity measures. What are we cutting? It's going to be more than the $85,000 if this isn't something that we can actually bring in. So you see what I mean?
Yeah, just a quick thought on the couple of examples you gave. I've walked kind of a lot of those major trails now myself, so I get a sense of what they are. To repair that fence out there by the dog park, what we're probably talking about is $10,000 or less, right? I mean,
so that's great that you said that. Yeah. And my question as a resident would be, how come that's not been done yet?
Yeah, and again, it's been, I think, management of the public works function and the maintenance function in this city over the last several years. And I'll just say it that way. As somebody that's dealing with these things on a daily basis now, I see it. Mm-hmm. I see it. Mm-hmm. If I didn't do this stuff on my house, my HOA would be all over me, right? So it's that kind of stuff that we see it, and so we're addressing those. But the bigger ones, they take a minute to think through. What are we going to do? Are we going to move those posts, 3 feet back from where they are now at that slide area? What are we doing to address the slide at the bottom of the slide where the water from the creek is actually eroding underneath the bank? And do we put riprap down there to kind of shore up and buffer the soft clay soil that's there? So there's a lot of options that we need to think through, and how we address that. What's the penny wise but not pound foolish solution to any of those things? The good news on that one is there's lots of room there to keep a decent sized trail, but also make it safe by moving that fence into the hillside.
And that's the FEMA projects you're
That
talking about?
is not the FEMA project.
Not the FEMA.
We're not talking about that right now. That's
Okay.
a separate one. We've got separate funds for that. We had the engineers out last week to look at that one. This is the one over by the dog park on the trail out there that it gets you to just before you get to Regency. Yeah. So it's a significant slide. If you don't like heights, don't go looking over the edge kind of thing. But we've never come up with let's get a game plan and let's address it.
I mean, I think that's one of the key things, and because I think it's fair to say that there would be an unlimited amount of things that we could do in the area. I mean, the whole point of funding is scarcity and choices. If the funding is what, $1.3-ish million? So we spend about $1.3-ish million. That's not to say that 1.3 is the right number, but I mean, if we got $10 million, we would probably spend $10 million. Whatever we get, we're going to spend. And it'll look great, or it will not, depending on the level of funding. And so you kind of get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
And we'll prioritize the work based on the available funds. unless we set a standard to say, this is the standard that we want to do, and then assess what that cost is, I don't think that we can answer Councilmember Tillman's question about what the right level is.
Right.
But I do know that whatever we get, we're going to spend.
Yes.
So,
And you know, I'll just say this, I mean, the cost increases that we've seen this year are significant. Luckily, we locked in a lot of contracts for these services before some of the upheaval and in pricing and inflation and fuel prices and whatnot. So we were very fortunate from that perspective that we locked in those contracts before that, for some of these recent fuel charges. So that's good news.
but that's short term.
Short term.
That's going to come back very quickly.
You were right. That's right where I was going to go. I mean, that as we renew contracts, there's CPIs built in, so we've got baked in CPIs, which are probably less than what we would have paid if we went out for a new bid now. But it's getting harder on labor. There's a labor shortage, especially for this kind of work. And so we're being challenged by that as well. And I know our contractors are being challenged to put folks on the line to do the work.
I mean, and also, I know that there were members of the TLC and members, even I spoke to Save Mount Diablo, who'd be willing to do a voluntary assessment of our trails. I know our former engineer was talking about an assessment at like $250,000, and that didn't even include the labor and maintenance. But I mean, I walk the trails every day. I'd be happy to participate in something like that. I don't know if other community members or members of the TLC would be willing to do that, but we've never really done an assessment, so.
I think the challenge here, different than other communities I've lived and worked in, some decision was made a while back to pave a bunch of these trails with asphalt, which then requires regular maintenance, which also causes some additional hazards because as the soil erodes, they may put the paving material, the asphalt at grade, but as water runs along it, it erodes that, and now you've got a tripping hazard on both sides of the trail in a lot of locations I noticed. Basically, the asphalt's in pretty decent shape. It's not getting a lot of wear and tear with foot traffic and even with dog traffic, but it will eventually require fills and crack sealing and a number of other things just to keep it from falling apart over time. But it's not under a lot of pressure just because it's being people are walking on it.
I mean, at the point where it falls into disrepair, you could just bring it back to aggregate and
But yeah, that's a policy question. If you wanted to not have asphalt anymore and it becomes a dirt path, that's
No,
an opportunity.
those asphalt trails are in pretty good shape.
They-
I mean,
they
I
are
do
really
walk
nice.
them every day.
Yeah. So it adds to that, how we evaluate things, how does that fit with the pricing and all those kinds of pieces as well. So, yeah.
Other questions for staff? Okay, so I'm going to go to public comment, and then we'll come back for discussion, because I think this is a good time. So public comment on this item, this workshop 7A.
Three minutes isn't enough tonight. I happen to be the poor soul that chairs the Finance Committee, so we did give a recommendation to move forward with both the LMD and the sales tax. Last meeting, I saw there were some words over, should we consider something else? Well, we gave a recommendation. We did look at other types of taxes, and that's what we came up with. Our committee did determine the LMD is the most important thing to pass. I think that what's important for you guys, what Councilmember Tillman just brought up, people want lots of things. And as you just pointed out, Mayor Juan, if we had $10 million, we would do it, but we don't. This is a really small town. I don't know if any of you are paying attention to the demographics. We were 12,000. I believe we're under 11,000. We're going the wrong way. You can only tax people so much. There's a lot of talk about whether or not, am I going to vote for this thing or not? People are dissatisfied with the landscaping as it is. you guys have to communicate to people, hey, there's only so much we can do with the money you're willing to pay. If I went to you and said, hey, I want $1,000 per parcel, are you going to vote yes? Guarantee you they're going to tell you that they won't. So we have to separate needs from wants. You guys are the grown-ups. You have to say, no, we can't have that because we don't have the money. The sales tax, there's been a lot of complaints and criticisms about that. I've seen even criticism towards this staff. One good thing about this staff, and I've worked with you guys closely, you're not whining about criticism. And I like how you just handled, Dennis, what you said about how things were handled in the past, very professionally. That's not what we had before. I don't want to dwell on that. The sales tax, it's going to be a small tax. I hope it's $1 million. When I gave my report last year, I told you, hey, you know how sales tax works. You get a hiccup in the economy, and it's $500,000. And if we budgeted to spend $1 million, we're going to have a hole in the budget. One last thing before I get off this microphone. Over, how large the number came out at the end, or where we're headed. There was really no mention of the fact that the county had a large portion to do with that. Citizens should be directing their questions towards, our supervisor. I can't remember his name at this point, but, staff made a prediction, and it still came out significantly less. Seems the county didn't have any money to help us with the library, but they had money for other things. And citizens should be making questions there. Hey, how come Clayton doesn't get any money? That's all I have to say. I wish I had more than 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? I saw a motion. Okay. All right, seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to council for discussion. So it looks like staff is asking us to address a few key items. We could take them one at a time. Were there open questions on the sales tax component at this time? No open questions at this time. We gave some feedback on the language. Did we want to discuss the argument in favor? Is that something that is, when is the due date for that?
Well, the reso would get passed with everything else, and we just before we submit it. So it's really the submission deadline.
Okay.
Technically, we could fill in the blanks. We'll have it ready to go and just fill in the blank. That's right. So that would be on the 16th.
When do you want a decision on the authors of the argument in favor?
Helpful on June 16th.
You want that by June 16th?
Yes. Then we'll fill in the blanks, because that's when you'd be considering that resolution. We'd fill in the blanks, and then you would take to a vote.
Okay, so if you establish it June 16th, you have until sometime in mid-August?
Or July.
Or sorry, mid-July. Did I get the month right?
I'm sorry. I'm
well,
not
if you establish the authors on
Right.
June 16th,
Yes.
then those authors would have until when to be complete?
They have until August the 19th, or whatever that other
Okay,
date
so
was.
roughly 2 months.
Yes.
And is there a word count on those, the for and against?
There is.
There must be, because it has to print on one.
I think it's
page
a
of the
couple,
ballot
200.
Of the voter guide.
200?
200. It's bigger than the ballot language. I want to say it's like 200-ish.
It's got to be more than that. It's like one column, right? Oh, yeah, it's one column on the voter guide.
Yeah, and maybe, yeah, so that's, I'm thinking is like a page, 200
Okay, like
words.
I mean, it takes up half a page, I think.
Yeah.
And there has to be an argument in favor, but there doesn't have to be a rebuttal?
Technically, there does not have to
Oh.
be an argument, but you're giving away a free shot.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Yes.
this doesn't have to be decided now, but because we're on the topic and it's relevant, is there any opinions on the authors? Do we want to not have a group of two, a group of more than two, someone not sitting on this dais? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? I thought if we as a council wanted to put our best foot forward in the community, it would be great if the message came from all of us.
I agree.
That way, there's no daylight in between what we are advancing, and we do it together, and we either win or lose together. That would be my thought. It does require us to workshop things in a public setting, which I think we can manage. But just a thought. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
And just for clarification, is this on the sales tax measure?
Yes.
Yes, okay, we're still on that. Good. Got it.
I'm gonna say something very similar when we get to the next one too. Just a spoiler alert.
And you could, at
Do
a
them at the
future
same time.
meeting,
Yeah.
at a future meeting, have an ad hoc committee develop it such that
Yes.
it gets brought back at a council meeting
Yes.
for everyone.
So we can't form that committee now because it's not agendized, but we can talk about just our general direction of what we'd like, and then we can bring that back to take action at a later time. So that's possible. So that essentially does the same thing that we would, you could form a two-person ad hoc committee, draft language, bring it back, and then the council together can workshop it and then sign it together. That way, when it goes printed on a ballot, it lists all of us. That's one way to go. Doesn't
So
have
the
to be-
ad hoc
It
brings
could,
it
like-
back to a special council meeting?
It could.
Or a regular
Or a
council meeting?
regular.
Either way.
Or a regular,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Or the council could designate the ad hoc to draft it on behalf of the council
Got it.
so that it didn't need to come back.
That's also an option too.
That's, I think, more typically done.
We could designate someone in the audience to do it. So, that's my thoughts. Anyone against, in favor, neutral?
That works for me.
Works for me.
Okay. So what I took that to mean is to do not what you said, but to bring it back so that we could all sign it. I do think that's a good, I think that's a good thing to do to encourage the community for community support.
Go ahead.
Oh, I will just confirm, and we can do that at a future meeting, that we can do that. My only concern is because it's an argument for or against, it's advocating for, so we can't use public resources to do that, which is why I think we also typically have an ad hoc committee do that outside of a council meeting.
So difficult.
I know. I believe that's why it's done. I will confirm that for
Okay.
the future meeting.
So
So that could
let's-
be the,
Sure. If that is the
default.
case, then that may preclude what I just said, and that's fine. So why, maybe we can go with that plan, and then you could let us know outside the meeting, and then we could adjust the agenda in the future accordingly.
correct.
Okay. So there's always a wrinkle.
And just a reminder that you've got small opportunities to come back.
I know.
Yeah, so you really have after, if we're going to form the ad hoc on June 2nd, right, then you have really just.
2 weeks.
2 meetings in which to bring it back for approval by the council in public session. Because,
June 19th, right?
well, you'd have June 19th and you'd have July 6th, or 7th, sorry, 7th.
Yes.
Yeah,
Are we meeting on June 19th?
yes.
I think it's the 16th.
Or
16th, whatever the Tuesday is.
June
16th,
Did I have the date
sorry.
wrong?
16th.
Okay,
16th, and
Yeah.
then July 7th. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm having to look at it here.
Okay. So I think that's all the open questions on the sales tax, unless anyone has any other. Okay, cool. For the LMD, I think there was a grid that you had.
Would it be helpful to be back up for this discussion?
I leave it to you.
Okay.
It was the page that said LMD ordinance options. So you had a couple check marks, just want to revalidate. So we're still good with 10 years, we're still good with the oversight body. I think we talked about the description, so I'm kind of going out of order. The last item here is the description. I don't think there's any significant change to the description other than what you mentioned. And that would be the unit rate and the dates. Everything else I think is fine. Unless anyone had any things that they wanted to change on that.
It's not that I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to change it, but I do have a problem based off of our last convo, and then even the comment that Mr. Gvidia said. It reads to fund ongoing operation and maintenance of the trail system. And if we don't, we haven't even done an assessment of the trails. It just doesn't
It just feels like it's skirting the line, even though we're not doing anything bad. I just think that that's going to be a huge argument against approving this by people, is because what has been the maintenance on the trails that we've done, how much are we spending for it, et cetera. So aside from getting the FEMA grant for the Cardinal Trail, saying that it's approximately 10 grand to fix the fence on the Regency Trail, or the one that's leading up to, I just know, because I've heard it, that there's been an issue with the maintenance piece of this, of the trails. That's the only part that I don't want to change it, but I'm going to be vocal and just share that.
I think it'd be good if staff could bring forward like the work that's done on the trail system. Because I know that there is ongoing maintenance of the trails. It doesn't have some of the flair that is super visible, but the crews are out there periodically on the trails, so.
Were you going to add something else?
No, the only thing I was going to say, you know, in the ordinance, there's, for example, a thing about the fountain. I'll just raise this, and it uses the same exact language about maintenance on operations of the fountain.
It says fountain?
The fountain.
The fountain is in the LMD.
Yes.
But it doesn't say that here.
Because this isn't exhaustive. It's a whole, there's a whole ordinance. This is just the core of
I
of
see.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the
So-
ballot language and the ordinances.
Correct.
All right.
This is the ballot language. So, but in the ordinance language, which is more exhaustive and complete, it uses the same exact language. But this council has separately made a decision that they're not going to use the funds to turn the fountain on. So that even though it says operations of the fountain, I believe a past council made a decision not to use LMD funds to run the fountain. So we use, like, for example, we have the pump service and everything else that come in to maintain that. When our maintenance crew's out there pulling the weeds out of the thing, all those kinds of things, those are charged back to the LMD. But the electrical bill, we're paying that out of the general fund based on a decision made by an earlier council. So I just throw that in there as a interesting, juxtaposition that the council made a decision outside of that ordinance that they believed said it didn't include operations of the fountain.
Okay. But we've never really determined that ourselves as a body, that we don't want to, because I think we keep saying, can you turn it on for a period of time, give us an idea of how much it'll cost, then come back to us and we can determine, do we want it on every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or every Saturday, Sunday, or just holidays? We were going to look at the holiday schedule. We haven't had that discussion yet. Do you want that to be part of this? No.
I don't want to cook that fish right now. I mean, it's a different issue. I was using it as an analog or an analogy for the trail system, and that's why I wanted to bring it up here.
Okay.
So.
Because I do think we should have a discussion about that
It's a whole
separately.
different thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry for bringing that up.
Yeah.
But since you brought it up,
I
I have a question. I think some time back, Mr. Loftus gave us a hourly rate to run that thing. Do you recall what that number was?
I could tell you what the latest number is.
Tell me.
$750 for every 8-hour period.
8 hours. Okay, so you have to run it for you have to run it for 8 hours?
No, you can run
it on an 8 or an
You can run
hourly
for 8
basis.
minutes if you wanted to.
What was it again? Seven what?
$750 for an 8-hour period.
Okay, so not to be, how can that possibly be true? Do we have the evidence for that?
I do have the evidence.
Okay.
You can come see it.
Yes, I would love to see it.
Yeah, let's go back to the LMD ordinance.
$750 a day. It costs more in a day for 8 hours than it does to run my house for a month.
See what happens when you bring up the word fountain? I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay, we'll table that for now. Okay, so, sorry, going back to the options here. So, Councilman Tillman, you raised the issue of the trails maintenance and the language. I think staff has an action to kind of elucidate the action that is happening on the trails.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
And I know that they had mentioned it before, but since we have to approve the ballot language, I don't know when that's going to come out. When do you think that will be posted and highlighted and shared? Because we can't, I don't think we wait until, I guess you can, but people start voting around the time that you have your second,
Yeah.
maybe even before then, before the second town hall. I'm just concerned that people start
by
doing
then-
their ballots early.
Okay, yeah.
And then, okay,
Yeah, if we could have the summer, that's doable. And so for the August 26th town hall and for the 2nd of October, or 7th of October, whatever that date is. 7th, yeah. Yeah, we could do that. I was thinking if you needed it for the ballot language discussion, that wasn't going to be possible. So.
Okay, so we're good with this last box here?
Yes.
All right, let's move up a little bit. Which body and number of members?
So I spoke to our city manager today, and I said, if we were to reduce the number of members, and I know different people have thrown out different numbers, I think we were talking about 5 last time, what would happen to the current body of TLC committee members? You said they would serve until the end of June, right? And then potentially have to reapply for whatever number of seats
End of
we've
June
determined.
of what year?
Next year,
Of
because it
27?
doesn't sunset till
Yeah.
June 30th,
Sure.
2027. And
Okay.
so, and I mean, I don't know if you're going to have an argument for 11, but 11 seems large to me. I think 5 is a good number. We've talked about 5 in the past. That would be my recommendation, but.
I like 5. I like less, but I'll go with 5.
And I appreciate your history on that from that Blue Ribbon Committee, because I vaguely remember it. But 11 is unwielding and would favor a smaller number. So I could support 5.
I don't need it to be 11. Where did you find your history? Who shared that with you?
Planning Commissioner Richardson.
Oral history?
Oral history, yes.
Yeah, I know that he was on the original stuff too, so thank you. It doesn't have to be 11. 5 seems odd to me, but I like 7. But here's a question. I know that there was some question from the committee members on whether or not there needed to be a quorum of them to have a meeting, et cetera, because they're just advisory. Is it necessary for them to have a quorum? And is it a quorum of the 11 or a quorum of the number of people who show up? And I'm asking that, go ahead, Mala, and I'm asking that because there have been meetings, I know that were held, let me put it this way. When I inherited it, there were not 11 people and meetings were happening.
So if the council created it as a body of 11, then quorum is a majority of the 11, even if there are only seven members, because 4 seats are vacant. So you would always need 6 members in order to have a meeting of this body, which is another reason to drop the number, because it can be challenging to make quorum with such large numbers.
Okay, so if there were only 4 people meeting.
It was not a meeting of
Okay.
the body.
Okay.
It was a social gathering?
It was a meeting of less than a quorum, but it wasn't a quorum of the body. So we couldn't even, they couldn't even make a recommendation to you.
Okay, I like 7.
Is there, I mean, I would think if the council can operate with 5 and the planning commission can operate with 5, I don't know why we would need more members for the TLC than those bodies.
The reason why, and this is because I've gone to the actual meetings over the last couple of years, you have quite a few people who might not be able to show up, and if there's supposed to be recommendations and things getting done, if you've got 5 and you need 3, and 3 don't show up, nothing is getting done.
But if you have 7 and you need 4, you're in the same.
It just gives you have a couple more people with flexibility that might be able to get there. I'm just telling you,
We're
based off
talking
of
about 2
experience.
meetings a year, though.
No, it's
right?
more than
2 or
2.
3.
It's more than 2 or 3 meetings a year. It should be,
I think it's 2 or 3, the language says, right? No more than 3? I thought I remember reading that in the original. I mean, and there's been 1 meeting this year, is that correct?
Yes, and they meet again in June.
But there
My
should have
vote
been
is
more
for-
meetings than the ones that we've had. We established a cadence last year of when people would meet. Historically, it would be like a look back and then a look forward, so they only had 2 meetings a year. People dropped because they thought it was a waste of their time because they were just rubber stamping what was given to them. So I think the new thing is to do it quarterly, right? So that was established last year. Could that change when a new group is formed in 2027? Possibly. But I still think I'm cool with 7.
Is 7 is the sole rationale to better achieve a quorum?
For me, it is just, but it could be a different group of people. It really could be. You get people who go on vacations, people get sick, you think people are going to show up to the meeting, they say they're coming to the meeting, they don't show up that day. Business can't get done. We all sit here looking at, trying to call people to get them here, they don't come. We can't do anything, it's a waste of staff's time. I think if you got a couple more people that you could possibly get in the room, then you might be able to get to the 4 versus 3 that you really need to get here.
It's the difference of one person, though, correct? So if you can't even get 3 people to a meeting, you're hoping to get 4 if you have a 7-member committee?
With 2 more people to choose from, yes. You like 5.
My vote is still for 5.
Mine is still
yeah.
7. You guys keep 5. We can vote.
3%.
We don't have to keep belaboring it.
So I'm trying to think. This is
In
like the
terms
game,
of
it's like the
establishing a
game show
quorum,
problem.
I sit on a body outside of this organization, and believe it or not, through their legal team, we can conduct a meeting with 1 person. The body normally has 3, but 1 can be, it's the general manager, right, they approved it. The legal staff approved it for the general manager to say, in the bylaws, committee with 3 people, if only 1 shows up, we can have the meeting. This prevents delaying action on items. But I, again, favor 5.
Is that an available option to us in the ordinance for the oversight committee to define a quorum? Give it to me.
I don't know how you get to less than a majority of the body as a quorum. I mean, if you, I guess in theory, if you wanted to do 3 out of 7, is that, or 3, I mean, 2 out of 5, you're going to have a lot of Brown Act problems then. The shorter you, the less you make the
That's
quorum.
true, because then those 2 people can't talk to each other.
They can't talk to each other, yeah. So it may cause other unintended consequences.
I see. Okay.
Vice Mayor Ania, what do you think?
Well, you know, I've said it before at previous meeting. When I was on that committee in 96 through 2004, there was 5 of us. And I'm good with 5.
Okay.
I mean, I like 5 too. I would love us to all be able to vote in favor of it. Would you vote for it if it was 5? Or would you say no?
I won't say no. I don't, you almost made me cuss. Go for it.
Okay. I think the 4 of us are good with 5, so you can put your green check mark on that one. Okay, so the next one is the base assessment. Let's take these separately. So I think we previously discussed the re-baselining at plus 10%. Are we all still good with that?
I am.
And that's the reserve for the first year of the 10, right? It's not 10% every year.
No, it's just 1 year.
Just that 1
A 1
year.
year re-baselining
Right.
of plus 10%.
And then in addition to a CPI every year.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Anyone have any issue with that? All still in agreement? Silence means yes. Cool. All right, so good with the 10%. Next is the per acre or per parcel for residential, non-residential. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Yes, please.
People love the trails, and I would hate to see it lose $85,000.
Well, 10% gives it a boost of 125,000.
But we still will lose that money if we go to a parcel. I think we ought to just leave it the way it is. It's worked for how many years? 10, 15?
I mean, an appeal to history, I don't know, is that strong? That's what it is, right?
Yeah, I don't think we ought to reduce it. That's
Is
just
it
my
parcel or acre?
Acre.
Currently, it's per acre.
But I thought that there was one thing in the ballot language that was, and then something else in the ordinance. Is that what's on page 7?
So it's non-residential is per acre currently, and residential is per parcel.
So the way that it looks on page 7, if you blow that up, the top part is what is currently being assessed. Okay.
Yes.
I was only asking for clarification because I thought I just heard Vice Mayor Ania say that he wanted parcels.
But if then we determined to do everything by parcel, the assessment per household would have to change if we want to maintain the same number, correct?
Yes. Or you would have the chance to reduce the service level by that amount, and you'd be
Right.
on the record for saying, we're going to spend $86,000 less.
Right, I don't think anybody wants to do that.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is the assessments are meant to be commensurate with like the users of the service. So like if you're in a household and you pay your property tax, you have access to all the services just like everyone else does. If you pay your gas tax, it's based on your utilization. If you pay your sales tax, it's based on a proportionate share of use. The acre is the one outlier that doesn't behave that way. A single person essentially you're taxing landowners, which again, the appeal to history I don't think is a good argument. But, ultimately when you look at it, most of the businesses, 28 of the commercial ones out of the 58 remain neutral or no change, status quo. But then when you look at it, the thing that stands out to me here, business number 8, I mean, we know that that's Oakhurst, right? So Oakhurst has a lot of acres, and they pay a disproportionate share of the LMD. So are they using a disproportionate share of the services of the LMD? I don't know. But essentially we're saying, Oakhurst, you are paying 5% of the LMD, and you're paying 65% of all commercial contributions to the LMD is paid by one business. Now, regardless of how that shakes out, Oakhurst is a critical part of the community. It has a lot of benefit. They pay a lot of taxes. We want them to, I want them to continue as a business, like I want all businesses to continue in the city because it's healthy for the city to get the revenue and it's a benefit for the community. To the extent that they will pay, like I said, 65% of all commercial LMD and 5% of the total. And then when we look at the risers, just assuming a straight 3% rise, that 60,000, 67,000 goes to 100,000. It's hard for me to say that they are using that proportion of the LMD commensurate with the amount that they're paying. So the other businesses will all get a reduction as well. Essentially, every commercial property gets a reduction except for the ones that are less than 1 acre, because that would be straight across. So like you could see, several are just probably a fraction of 1 point something acres. And those all are at 607.46, so they're exactly double because you're rounding up, right? But the vast majority will be a little lower, which could help the business community. But the other one is fairly significant. I mean, we've had conversations with Oakhurst and the amount of taxes they pay, the amount for their water charges, for all of their things. It does put pressure on the overall viability and the going concern of the business. So that to me definitely is a consideration. And then the other is fairness. I think we always have a chance to look at something, or when we have a chance to look at something and it's in front of us, we evaluate it de novo, like net new, and we just say, does that seem appropriate to have one business pay 5% of the entire LMD? So that'd be my argument in favor of going to everything per acre, per parcel. Said the wrong thing.
And then what are you thinking about how to make up the difference if we go to the per?
The
what is it?
10% makes up the difference.
The 10% makes up the.
It exceeds it. So the 10% on 1.3 is what, 130,000? The declination, the decrement is 85,000. You're still net positive, just net positive a little less.
But the basis for the 10% reserve was to have a reserve, right?
Well, or for one-time CapEx, capital expenditure type spending.
Okay.
So fences on tops of cliffs, things like that.
Vice Mayor Inia, were you going to say something?
I was going to say that 10% is going to last 10 years. So it might come out even the first year, but as the CPI goes up, it's going to be less.
Sorry, I'm not following.
The first year of the 10%, that's for the CPI for the rest of the 10 years, right?
No.
No?
It would just be assessed once to reset the base for the next 10-year period, and CPI would be put on top of that 10%. So it stays there, but it ratchets then, not 10 plus CPI, it just CPI on year two.
I think it's better not to think of it as 10% per se, but it's just resetting the baseline to a higher number, and that number happens to be, we arbitrarily set 10%. It could be 8 or it could be 12, but we said if you just raise the amount a certain level and then re-baseline it there, and then for every year thereafter, you do it. The benefit of having a 10-year term is that it gives us the opportunity to re-baseline as needed. If prices were stable and flat-ish, just normal in line with regular growth, then you probably wouldn't need to re-baseline. But if there are periods where there's a rapid increase in pricing, how could that ever happen? But if it did, then you would have the opportunity to raise it. And so I think that's what the 10% is supposed to reflect. Inflation is crazy.
So I still, as much as I appreciate that businesses need help, et cetera, I think we also heard a speaker say today that people don't like being taxed. I don't think that there's going to be anyone, well, maybe they would be, okay with saying, okay, well, we'll absorb this from the businesses just to make sure that you guys, the city doesn't have to absorb it. I do believe that if a business paying call it $70,000 a year is what's going to make them not be in business anymore, there's something else going on. And I'm an Oakhurst member. Even though they've lost a lot of members, I'm still a member. That can't be what's going to make them go out of business. And as business owners, that's just, you have bills you have to pay. We, as a city council, shouldn't be helping businesses stay in businesses. We've lost a lot of businesses. Businesses turn over. If that happens, they sell it, we get a new Oakhurst owner. It doesn't mean that it shutters. So I'm not following the logic on us eating $86,000 or asking the residents to incur that cost and absorb it, even if it's a $20 more for them to be assessed. I'm not following that.
Yeah, I think that's not the way that I would think about it or frame it. The city doesn't absorb anything. It's just taxing people less. So the city would still collect a net greater amount than in the year prior. So we're not eating any costs either because there aren't costs per se. We're essentially just taxing people less. And so the benefit applies to all businesses. Obviously it's a proportion of acreage, but I think it would be an inapt comparison to say that residential properties would need to absorb the costs for non-residential properties, because essentially all the money is fungible and we would be collecting a greater amount of money overall.
So earlier during the presentation, I think the questions were asked were, aren't there other ways that we can think about the $86,000 annually, that net, if you're looking at this from these 17 businesses? And are there other options? And I think it was Dennis who shared, yes, I forgot to say this. You could either, you gave us a couple options. Oh, hold on, they're not listening.
This is like Survivor over here.
It's okay.
Yes. So let me add another wrinkle to this. Sorry, we were having our own conversation
okay, that's
while
why I
you were
stopped.
having a conversation.
Tribal
Bless you.
council is interesting.
Sorry. So if we're going to change the rate of apportionment, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I want to expand that slightly. We have to be able to justify the assessment fee. It's a fee, not a tax. And so part of that assessment is done for us by a company called NBS for the LMD as well as for the Grove Park. And they're gonna have to be able to justify the 10% increase already. That's part one.
That's pretty easy with inflation.
Again, if we're gonna though spec out for CapEx, what's that level of CapEx? I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm just saying they have to do that work in time for us to put this together by June 2nd. I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow afternoon to have exactly this conversation with NBS, anticipating that this might happen tonight. So I've got it already on the books for tomorrow afternoon. The other piece of this, as we're talking about it, is if you do have the residents absorb that would have to be a part of their analysis as well, that the transfer of the costs from businesses greater than 1 acre would be transferring proportionally over to the rest of the 4,100 residential parcels. That would also have to come out in their analysis as well. I think we can get this done. I'm hoping we can get this done. I'm going to know a lot more at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon about what this is going to take in order for them to do it, because they're already finishing up the report for FY27 for us that I'm bringing on the 2nd that I indicated earlier. So this has to get scored and justified because it's a fee. And I think that becomes key. I don't know if they're going to have to make, I'm going to look at Mala just because this gets a little fuzzy for me. Are they going to have to make a determination that the fee needs to change for the non-residential units? Do they have to come?
I think if you change the formula,
Yeah.
that my concern is, and that's the conversation you'll have tomorrow,
Right.
is whether they can do it in time.
Yeah.
If
So,
the more changes you make, the
When you say do it, what do you mean?
prepare the report that's going to go with the documents for June 2nd.
Okay.
so that's that, and that was the thing I learned this morning from our council's colleague, and as we really dug and pulled this thing apart, the change in what is commonly called the RMA, the rate and method of apportionment, that if we touch that, we're having to do the analysis to back up and support whatever the changed RMA is for the district.
I mean, okay. I actually think it's a more equitable RMA than it is now. So be it.
I'm going to go out and say I disagree, like I did at the last meeting. I just don't think that we should, aside from what you just added, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and you own a business, you pay taxes. I don't feel like any of the businesses should be treated as a parcel or a household. I just don't. And this is something that they've all been paying for 10 years already. It's what they're used to paying. If we're talking about equity, businesses are not households. And I'm going to stick with that. So if to move forward with this, I'm not going to approve changing this to per parcel.
And I'm not going to approve it either. It should stay the same.
And is your meeting going to provide any additional information to us on June 2nd, where if we decide all these other things, we can come back to that on June 2nd?
No, I mean, not tomorrow is really about just figuring out how this fits within their work order and how much time they have to do the justification. I'm not familiar with what that would require timing and staffing wise for them, and I can't speak to that until I speak to them.
And cost, right, of doing that analysis.
Yeah.
So can I clarify something that you had mentioned earlier? I wasn't sure I understood it correctly. If we do not change the RMA, does the public hearing and all the other stuff that you mentioned earlier still need to happen?
Yes.
All of that same schedule. So that's
Yes.
required regardless.
Yes.
But what's not required is the analysis that you're.
I think there's just less work to do because you're using the exact same formula.
Yeah. So for example, if we went back up, I guess I can actually do this to show you. So if we look at the language of measure H that we had on the slide here, right? You'll notice down here, this language where it says, because this was done in 2017 in anticipation of the next year, the parenthetical comment there says presently 234.84. It's a note that they don't know what the number is going to be next year with the CPI when this happens. And so they put this note in there as the way of saying this is what the price is now, and it's going to be what it's going to be based on the justification report that NBS is doing.
But this language is the one that's problematic because this describes per parcel, and the ordinance is not.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't believe that's true. I believe
so
this is.
This is presently 234.84 per year per residential and non-residential parcel.
Or fraction thereof.
And I think at the last meeting, you shared a different slide that showed this, but then you highlighted it with another page that showed us what the actual ordinance said.
Yeah,
So it had
ordinance
the
said,
ballot,
yeah.
ballot language versus what the
challenge,
ordinance
the problem
says.
is the ballot language is in conflict with the ordinance.
The ordinance governs.
I know, the ordinance
Yeah.
is controlling.
You get very, as you know, you get 75 words, so.
Yeah, I know.
You can't.
But, I mean, that meaningfully is different. I'd say that is materially different in the calculation. So if the voters were to approve this as the ballot language, obviously the ordinance is probably, no. The ordinance gets adopted after, right? Or is it at the same time?
It's attached.
It's at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So, well, regardless, the ballot language should be consistent with whatever the ordinance says.
I agree.
And this is not.
I agree.
I just said this was an example from last time.
Yeah.
It's not definitive. We didn't want to draft anything
Sure.
to not prejudice this
That's
conversation.
fine. And that's fine. So like if I'm a voter and I don't read the ordinance because I'm not a masochist, and I just read the 75 words, and I say, oh, I'm voting on it per parcel, and then I turn around, oh, but you didn't read that part on the bottom, that just contradicts the ballot language, I would feel misled. So that's just me.
I mean, I think that's valuable input to make sure that there's a greater degree of consistency between what's in the ordinance and what's in the ballot language up to our word limit.
Do hyphens shorten words?
Just don't use spaces.
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Okay.
And yeah.
You can get one of the teenagers to
We can emoji it maybe.
shorten it up a little bit. I need a translator when I read this. Okay, so Vice Mayor Nia, you are not in favor of changing the methodology. Councilmember Tillman, you are not in favor of changing the methodology.
Correct.
Do you have your wish? You go either way. I didn't say that. I almost said that.
It was on your lips, but I just want to say, I'm either one where. Either way is fine with me.
Okay, and I'm not gonna die on that hill, but I do think it is more fair. But that's me.
Well, and I feel the same way. I'm looking for something a little bit more equitable that is fair to all businesses. If you want to say, we're talking about businesses here, that it's something that is just more equitable. And yes, there is a cost to doing business, but this is like, And it also happens to be a property that, and maybe this isn't the right way to defend it, but that also does all their own landscaping and maintenance, right? Yes, they're surrounded by our beautification projects, our trails, our parks. Dennis? Oh, they were going to say something. So, and I love that we have a golf course. I never want it to go away. So I guess in my mind, I was thinking if there was a way to kind of, and if there was other precedent in other communities, other districts that we could cite, but you do need that answer tonight.
Well, I think in order to give NBS a crack at being able to do the analysis, if there's going to be an RMA change, then we need to give them a fair crack at doing that because we have to make that part of the package on June 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't provide direction, I can't imagine you'd make the deadlines.
No pressure. Okay. Yeah, so there's really no way to isolate because I think we have to treat all the same. So, that's somewhat problematic. I do agree that all the businesses they have to pay taxes. It's the cost of doing business. I mean, but there's a limit, and it wouldn't, if we were to say, hey, instead of 70,000, it's going to be like 700,000, and that's a tax. I don't think we could justify that by saying it's the cost of doing business. I think there has to be some kind of balance in what you pay versus what you get. And that's just the nature of taxes. Not everyone gets, I'm using the term tax colloquially, so not the strict definition of a tax. But that being said, if it is easier for staff and it's easier to get it to lessen the work, I mean, I want to give this the greatest chance of success. That's ultimately the goal. So
Yes.
I would, if it reduces the burden on staff, increases the chance for us to get everything done in time, and it eliminates some other administrative work that will need to be done as a result, then I would just go with what it is.
And cost, if there's additional cost analysis. Dennis, did you want to say?
No, I mean, there would be, to me, in the bigger discussion, it's not that much difference in cost if we were to do the extra analysis. I don't want it to be about the cost to the city to do that.
It's more administrative time.
It's the administrative time. I think it does put additional pressure on our consultants. Even just taking the 10% to add to rebase it, they're going to have to do some analysis anyway. So that's going to be some additional administrative time. But I think if we're doing that, plus trying to create the justification for the shift in the ordinance. So
if they're going to do work on the 10%, just tell them, have you tried to get gas lately?
it should be easy argument. I get it. Easy justification. I get it.
Okay.
And we do have precedent, obviously. These businesses have been paying it the last 10 years, 20 years. We don't know who all these businesses are outlined 1 through 17, but I'm assuming our shopping center.
One of them's got to be Safeway.
Well, and they're in different parcels,
Yes.
so it may be 4, because they're in 4 parcels.
Yeah,
Might
sorry.
be.
Okay, so any other discussion on this? You're okay, like if we just leave as is?
10-year
I
also?
have some questions that are
Microphone.
part of the.
Yeah, to turn on your, yeah.
Thank you. I have questions relative to some of the information that's posted in this wonderful report. But there's no decision required on any of them, but it's just clarification for my own
Okay. You want to take that
purposes.
offline? Or
Huh?
you want to do that now, or do you want to take it offline?
Yeah, I can do it right now. The exempt properties, City Hall, the library, the fire station, is that what they are? The exempt properties?
Actually, I never even looked them up. So they just come up, they show up on the list
Well, where
from.
do- yeah, how do they show up
from
then?
NBS.
probably
I
is
don't
it-
even know, probably post office, the school properties.
Yeah, those seem natural ones, and I just want a clarification, because somebody will ask that question, and I'm like, well, I don't know.
And I just want to be honest with you and say, I did not look at them to figure out what those parcel.
But there are nine exempt parcels.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question is, on the population list here, it lists Clayton at 10,683 as of 1/1/24. I've seen numbers fluctuate as high as almost 12,000. And what are we, losing people by the handful here, or what?
So, keep in mind, the census numbers were generated, officially in 2022, after the 2020 census. What most jurisdictions in the state of California use is the State Department of Finance's population estimates for all the iterative years in between. And so those numbers are based on a number of factors that Department of Finance uses, because it's used as an appropriation method of many state budgets.
Sure, yeah.
So they have to have a way of saying this is what the population is for this fiscal year.
Okay, because I just want to kind of zone in on a reasonable number to quote. Because people ask all the time, believe it or not, how many residents are in Clayton? I go, well, there's between 10 and 12,000 people.
Little under 11 grand.
Yeah,
11,000.
thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
And did we decide on the 10, we did decide on the 10 years?
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't know if we verbally said that, okay.
Okay, so do you have everything you need at this point now for this? Is there anything else that you'd like to raise here while you have us?
No.
Okay. Do we want to discuss take the similar approach for the arguments in favor pending analysis, if we can actually do that? Is that all good?
That works for me.
Okay. I don't think you need a motion, and we already did public comment, so going once, going twice. That concludes item 7A. Next item is adjournment. The next meeting is June 2nd. We are adjourned at 8:56.
Good job.
Well, we gave it a try, guys.
I just think that $100,000 after 10 years, you're going to have somebody say, well, they do already.
You were here last time and you wanted to know about the sidewalk, right? Do you have questions? All right.
Well, they do.
Okay.
I mean, they do still do. They pay business taxes. This is in addition to